Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be doing a brief overview of Article 12 and sharing some things that I thought were really interesting and that I really enjoyed from this article. So a lot of this article talks about psychology and psychoanalysis being two separate things, and kind of the thought of psychology as a science is brought up a little bit, and impacts that psychologists had in different times in the United States as a nation and in the world. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up is actually on the first page, and it talks about how American psychologists were literally fighting to have a lab anywhere they could. It was either at colleges or in their homes, and it says in closets, and anywhere they could find space. And they wanted to do research. That's what they wanted to do. It says they invented new forms of measurement, odd devices, and tests of all sorts. The new psychology, as they like to call it, seemed destined, even in its infancy, to do what had been declared to be impossible, to create a truly scientific approach to the mind. So it was really important for these psychologists to study psychology and psychoanalysis as a science, so that is when psychoanalysis started. When they truly wanted it to be seen as a science. These psychologists also realized, which is something that I guess I didn't realize had to be realized, that in order to study someone or to study someone's mind, you cannot have an attachment to them. You cannot have any emotional thoughts, and in my mind I always thought that was the way it was, but they truly had to realize that there had to be a boundary between them and what they were studying or who they were studying. No emotions could be involved because you can't think objectively when emotions are involved. So that's also when psychologists implemented that practice, and it is so important to how we study psychology today. Any study or experiment that we do, everything is done objectively and without bias. So it's really cool that these American psychologists were the ones to implement that into their studies. It talks a lot about Freud and his findings and his beliefs, and Franz Alexander actually deeply did not agree with Freud's findings and beliefs, and he said it often. At this time, there was quite a few psychological journals that were published that had American psychologists' findings and written in them and theories, and there was one that Freud was specifically not added to. Like, they really wanted him to know that he was not going to be in that psychological journal. Just a couple of other things. It talks some about how American psychologists helped during World War II and helped to assist people who had been in the war to the diagnosis and treatment of war-related disturbances, and to help them. They helped European refugees as well, help combat that, whether it's post-traumatic stress disorder or whatever it was to come from the war. They really helped with that. And then the last thing I want to say is written in the last paragraph, and it says, as psychoanalysis became less threatening, psychologists were able to notice that two fields actually shared many of the same basic assumptions: a commitment to psychic determinism, of belief in the cardinal importance of childhood experience, and an optimistic outlook on the possibility of change. I feel like those are three huge themes that we have heard all throughout this class, and those are still applicable to how we study psychology today. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.